Marvel's Blade movie has been delayed yet again. What is up with this production? Why can't Marvel get it going? And let's break down if it'll ever be released.
What's up, movie friends? Welcome back to Raiders of the Lost podcast, the ultimate film and TV podcast. And today we're going to discuss the much maligned production of Marvel's upcoming Blade film, which was announced 5 years ago.
6 years ago. 2018.
Oh my God! At Comic-Con with Kevin Feige and Mahershala Ali, and since then it has gone through so many ups and downs. It is just the most bewildering production of the last decade for sure. Especially when you consider how important this character and IP is for the future of this franchise of the MCU going forward. He's such a beloved character. Everyone who grew up in the late '90s and 2000s with the Blade films from Wesley Snipes and that team grew to adore that character. And once Marvel got the rights back, they got Mahershala Ali, and it was like, okay, they made the right decision with the casting. But since then, it has just been a roller coaster of a mess of a film. And it was just announced recently that they're undergoing a new rewrite on the script in a completely direction than was before. And so we're not sure what exactly is going to happen with this story at all, but we do know quite a bit about the film in terms of who's involved. And we also have a timeline of the entire history of this goddamn wretched production.
It's wild because this is such a tentpole character going forward in the MCU, I think, because he's so beloved. The Wesley Snipes Blade movies are so popular. And when we were growing up, there weren't a ton of superhero movies, but Blade was one of those early ones. I mean, they're coming on the 1990s, those Blade movies. 1998, I think the first one was. And Blade was the man. He was the guy. And then obviously Spider-Man came out, and then Batman started coming out, the Batman Begins trilogy, the Dark Knight trilogy with Chris Nolan. Of course, we had Batman in the 90s, but the Blade movies were so effing cool, bloody, gory, rated R, no BS, just an awesome franchise. Not perfect, but epic at the same time. And Blade is now such a beloved cinematic character for people. I mean, the prime audience for Marvel, we grew up on this character. We loved Blade growing up. And now they can't get the ball rolling on a production, which is wild because how hard is it to write a Blade movie? How hard is it? I could write you a Blade movie in a week. He kills vampires, has a sick-ass car, and cool guns and a sword with some fucking sick wine-liners. Like, how hard can this possibly be? But, of course, Marvel overthinks everything, and I have theories of what their issues are with developing the script and story. But remember, this movie was supposed to go into production in November 2023. But in October last year, 2 weeks before going into principal photography, they pulled the plug on it to do rewrites. And then Nick Pizzolatto, the writer of the True Detective Season 1 series, came on board. And I thought the movie was going to get made. I thought it was official. All right, we got a great writer on board. I'm sure he's got a cool idea, but clearly that has not worked out. And 7 months later, we're getting news of a new delay, new rewrites, new writers coming in, and it's just absurd how they can't get this movie going.
Yeah, and ironically, I mean, 6 years since the announcement, they should have at least one film in the can, and the sequel should be coming out soon, realistically.
Seriously! We should be seeing Blade 2 right now, and then also a prequel movie.
I will say, obviously, COVID shut them down for a good year and a half. So that's a good excuse. But also, the most recent story of Nick Pizzolatto is out. I think that had to do with the writers and actors strike. That lasted about 9 months. And I believe that his contract might have been up. And so that's why they've hired a new writer. They've hired the writer of Logan, a guy named Michael Green, who wrote Logan as well as a bunch of other high-profile, big-budget films. So he's currently the screenwriter of this new direction they're going in. At the moment, it has nothing in common with any announcements of story beats in the past. So the first major announcement with story was that it was going to be a period piece. Then it was going to be a period piece / modern piece that was going to be in New Orleans. None of this is going to happen right now. So right now, from what I can see, Michael Green, the writer, is literally starting from scratch. And apparently Mahershala Ali and Marvel like the direction it's going in right now. So at the moment, there are some confirmed things we can talk about. So first of all, this film mostly going to be set in Mexico and Brazil. And they might still shoot some stuff in America, but it's mostly going to be a Mexican production. and they do have a lot of Mexican crew involved already. It's going to be directed by Jan Demange, who made 71 with Josh O'Connell, and then White Boy Rick with Matthew McConaughey that came out a few years ago. He's a French filmmaker. He replaced the previous filmmaker and is on board, and recently said that Marvel has approved a hard R rating, which was one of his staples for signing onto the project, making sure that he would be able to make a rated R Blade film. So at least a good sign. The director's excited. 71 is a really good movie. White Boy Rick, kind of a step down, but really well made. He's a good director, and so looking forward to seeing him. I think he's a really solid choice for starting out this franchise. And then for writing, it's gone through several hands, from Stacey Osei-Kuffour to Michael Starbury to Nick Pizzolatto, and right now it's on Michael Green's hands at the moment. In terms of cast, there are 3 confirmed cast members, as well as a bunch of rumors. Obviously, Mahershala Ali. He's been cast as Blade for 76 years at the moment. Delroy.
He was born when Mahershala Ali was born. They cast him as Blade.
He was cast as Blade before he won his 2 Oscars.
Feels like it. It feels like it, honestly.
Delroy Lindo and then Mia Goth are both confirmed for the film. Their roles have been announced as rumors on sites and websites and articles, but it is not completely confirmed what either of the characters will be. I'm guessing.
Well, wasn't Mia Goth cast as the daughter of Dracula for the latest version that was written for the Blade movie?
But like I said again, the rewrite's completely different, taken from scratch. So I don't think it's confirmed what she is now. I'm guessing Delroy Lindo might be playing the Chris Christopherson character in the original films, his mentor. An assistant, so that would make sense, and I think those 2 actors would feed off each other really well. That's my guess for the actors, but I think that Mia Goth is absolutely going to be the villain.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good guess. So that's Whistler yes. to play that character, sort of the mentor, helping him develop his techniques, his methods, teaching him how to fight, his weaponry, stuff like that. That's a great shout right there. I totally agree with you on that.
As well as helping him maintain his abilities to survive without human blood.
His vaccines that he takes every once in a while. I would assume that Mia Goth is still going to be the daughter of Dracula, and they'll probably try to make her a villain or the villain. It seems like that's probably maybe a contract she signed, that even on rewrites, that's still who she's going to be.
Plus, she's so hot, they want to make her the baddie.
Absolutely. So, but this production, it's just blowing my mind, because this is a studio that has a wealth of resources, maybe the biggest riches of resources of any production studio in the world right now. Insanely successful 15 years, bit of a slow last 3 or 4, but still they can pay for anyone, they can pay for anything. But I think that my theories are is that they're just trying to inflate the story with too many characters that have really nothing to do with Blade himself, really just setting up a verse, setting up a multiverse, connecting too much to the future of the MCU. Versus what I love with the Batman, it's just its own thing. And sometimes I wish Marvel would just make a movie that's its own thing, that has nothing really to do with any of the other storylines, any of the other story arcs, any other characters. Sure, maybe a cameo here and there, but just I wish they would just make a Blade movie like Matt Reeves did a Batman movie, where it's not connected to the rest of the massive verse that they've built or that they're building in the future of their properties, all connecting. It's just Blade. It's not connected to the TV series. It's not connected to Guardians. It's not connected to Mutants. It's not connected to the Avengers and the next Avengers. You know, it's not connected to Kang or Doctor Doom or the Fantastic Four. It's just a Blade movie about killing vampires and killing Dracula, maybe. And I just wish that they would just go in that direction. And like, it feels like they just maybe years ago lost the pulse of the audience of what fans want and need. And of course, Deadpool and Wolverine will solve that problem temporarily, I think. But I think that'll be more of a Band-Aid over a stab wound situation, where I think that'll be a great movie and it'll be a massive hit and people will think the MCU is back in full swing. But I feel like they might just regress back into the state that they are now. And with Blade being pushed all the way back to Phase 6. Phase 6? Are you kidding me? This got announced in 2018 and we're waiting till Phase 6 to maybe get a Blade movie? I feel like the production is just going to be doomed because they're just so focused on, all the rumors of the movie, one of the other scripts being focused on Blade's daughter. And I think that the introduction of Bloodline, which in the comic books is about Blade's daughter being put into the Avengers, right? Like really immediately. I think that's probably the route that they've been trying to go, and is trying to make it a launching off point for Blade's daughter rather than making it a movie about Blade. I mean, I think The Witcher is a great example of probably what they were going for, where Blade becomes a third or fourth character in his own movie, and we have a couple of other characters who just take the show over, and then it's a launching platform for them, and then Blade sort of just becomes a secondary third character in all of his franchises going forward. And that's my guess of what's happened based off the rumors we've heard about previous scripts. But I think with Bloodline, the comic, being so hot, and then putting Blade's daughter in the Avengers in that comic, that's probably what I'm guessing their goal has been the last 6 years with this story.
What they have to do is they have to Top Gun Maverick it. They got to make it Blade's movie, and that's something that I think, even obviously taking away COVID and the delays that obviously caused, I think that the executives and the entire production heads, the productions like this film fell victim to lack of oversight. So hiring someone and then just saying, okay, hiring a team of people, just being like, okay, go ahead and make Blade. And then, oh, by the way, can we see the script? Oh, shit, let's pull the plug right before we film, even though all the sets are built.
2 weeks before filming. 2 weeks.
Every set was probably built by then. And so I think that there was a complete lack of oversight for probably 2 years. And that's what happened with a lot of TV shows. And I would say that Feige and probably the other execs weren't probably even paying attention to what was being done. I think that they hired probably people who weren't right for the jobs. And that's caused so many delays. And honestly, Mahershala Ali, he's getting up there. He is not young, and he's a great casting. But they should have already had a film done by now, because you don't want Blade to be too old. And I mean, if the first film comes out next year, when's the third film going to come out, in 2030? I mean, he's getting up there. So
he's 50 years old.
Okay,
so
he's got 10
50 years old.
Okay.
And so Wesley Snipes was 36 when the first Blade came out. Mm-hmm. And, times are different. Mahershala is in terrific shape.
Yeah.
He still looks really young. He doesn't look his age at all. And he takes really great care of his body. So I think the physicality and the youthfulness of the character is fine with him being older. Ideally, you want someone in their, 40s, which originally was the plan, to get Mahershala while he's in his 40s. But I think Daniel Craig proved that you can have an older lead action hero, and it's fine, and audiences accept it, and it's totally doable. But I think it affects the story in a way when you have a 50-year-old Blade. But I mean, by the time they make this movie, if they greenlight it, Mahershala will be 51, 52 years old when they actually film it. So
and then he'll be 55 by the second one.
If they make a second one in time, he's 55, 56 when they film that one. And you're right, Mahershala is getting up there, and he's one of the most talented actors alive. He's got 2 Oscars in the last 10 years, and I'm sure it's affected his career in terms of decisions he can make on acting roles. He's very much in demand. He gets, I'm sure, tons of offers, but if he has to block out time every year in his career, every year for Blade production, that never ends up happening. I'm sure that's very frustrating, as well as staying in insane shape to play the character. If I was him, I'd be insanely frustrated. And the amount of patience this guy has shown just to wait for this movie to get made, because he's 44 years old when he signed the deal to be Blade.
Oh my God.
And now he's 50. Now he's 50 years old. He'll probably be 51.
And they're rewriting it.
This. And they'll rewrite it again, I'm sure. So I don't know if it's a doomed production.
No, and then after they film it, they'll do reshoots.
Yeah, they'll do reshoots after they film it. It'll come out. If they film it next year, right? If there's some miracle and the Blade movie gets filmed next year, Mahershala will be 51, and then they'll do reshoots in 2026, right? And then the movie won't come out till 2028 because it'll get look at Craven. It'll get delayed over and over again. Even the Disney Plus shows on Marvel have all been delayed a year. And then by the time that comes out in 2028, they'll go into production on the next one. He'll be in 2029. He'll be 107 years old in 2029.
All right, let's talk about some more stuff that we do know confirmed though. We do know the film is gonna look good. So we have the costume designer from Black Panther 1 and 2 Wakanda Forever, Ruth E. Carter, who won an Oscar a few years ago for Black Panther, doing the costuming. And she obviously blew us all away with those two films. Like, some of the best costuming we've seen of the past decade were in both of the Black Panther films. So she's an incredible artist, and her costuming will probably be one of the points of excelling in this film, as well as cinematographer Damian Garcia, who is a Mexican cinematographer. He recently shot the entire series of Andor, which looks great, and Narcos Mexico. So a very seasoned, experienced cinematographer. So we know the film is going to look good. So they obviously have, like you said, a wealth of money to pull from. They can hire the best artists there are. So we do know the film will visually look stunning. On top of that, they reduced the budget to under $100 million. So that tells us that it's not going to be heavy CGI, because CGI is quite expensive. So it looks like they're going to try and keep it small in scale and low in visual effects. And hopefully they keep it heavy in practical effects and special effects, because that's what fans want. So the lower budget, I think, is a good sign, because if it was going to be $150 million, $200 million budget, you knew it was going to be bloated, and it was going to be a CGI spectacle. So I think that keeping that budget low for a Marvel movie is really smart and has me very interested. On top of that, in terms of other cast members, Kit Harington has confirmed that he will not be appearing in any Blade movies. He said at Comic-Con last year that his character Black Knight was never meant to be in a Blade film, and this was last year. So I'm guessing actors are always denying, even when it's true. It's possible he could show up, but I think that, like you said earlier, if they keep this just as a small-scale film centered upon only the character that we all love and can't wait to see, that is ultimately the best decision to make for fans and audiences. You can throw other characters in for the sequel, you can have them appear in other movies, but for the first film, it really should be a standalone, and it shouldn't be bloated with other characters or too many actors. What we want is to see Blade and to see Mahershala lead that role and lead that film, make it his story, make it about him, not about anyone else.
It's interesting that you point out the budget being under $100 million, which I think on the surface sounds great, and I think that's a good idea. But also, I think you have to factor in that they've probably already spent probably $30 to $50 million on this movie right now already.
They built the sets.
Building sets, doing pre-production, pre-viz, costume. Like, they've gone through pre-production on this movie multiple times, and pre-production costs a lot of money too. And
you're also paying the artists for their time, but even though they didn't shoot anything, they had to get paid.
Exactly, yeah. So they get paid. I mean, anyone who did any pre-production work on this movies, on all the productions, however far they all got paid. So you can argue that they've already spent tens of millions of dollars probably on this movie already. So they probably can't spend over $100 million on the production. But I mean, when it comes down to, at the end of the day, like Marvel lately, they will go through extensive reshoots, I'm sure. And so it'll probably end up costing over $100 million, I think, by the end of the road. But I like the idea of keeping it lower budget, going as practical as possible. Hopefully they do that. It'd be really great to see that approach with this kind of film. And when it comes to action, we have stunt coordinator Chris Dennison, who was the stunt coordinator on Black Panther Wakanda Forever. So I think that proves that this will be a pretty epic action film when it comes to the stunts, and we'll for sure have a very talented team on it as well. And but again, I've been trying to stay optimistic about this project for so long, but it's just tough to. It's tough to. Production designer, we have Stefania Cella.
Yeah, she's fantastic. She's worked with the director on both of his films, and then she also did Morbius, Moon Knight, and The Pale Blue Eye. The Pale Blue Eye was stunning. It was fantastic. So she's obviously a great hire for this project. And right now, it's her only project in development for the past. She's been working on this for 3 years.
Damn. So she has to redo it every 6 months. She has to do it. All right, whatever you got, Stefania, just scratch it all. Erase it all.
She had 3 films in 2022, and then since then it's just Blade.
The writing credits on this movie are crazy. Michael Green, Stacey Osai Kuffour, Nick Pizzolatto, Michael Starberry, Marv Wolfman, although he did the characters. It's just insane.
Yeah, it's quite a lot. Now, before we get more into this, do you want to get into our intermission?
Yeah, let's hop to our intermission. Then we'll get more into some juicy details about the Blade production because there's still a lot of things I want to talk about. But before we continue, the best way to support Raiders of the Lost podcast, of course, is to become a patron at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost podcast. Why? Why would you want to be a patron? Ask yourself this question.
Ask.
Should I sign up? Should I sign up? Sure. Why? Because you get awesome perks like access to ad-free versions of every single episode. You can also link your Spotify account to your Patreon account so you can listen to the Patreon episodes on Spotify. That's a no-brainer, win-win situation if you ask me.
Big time.
Also, you get access to bonus episodes every week, access to our Discord. As soon as Anthony's back from England, we're doing a watch party, just so you know. He's been away for what feels like 17 years. For as long as Blade's been in production and pre-production, Anthony's been away. So as soon as Anthony's getting back, we should watch Blade as a watch party on our Discord in this upcoming week. Also, you can get perks like free merchandise, private watch parties, all sorts of stuff. Patreon's the only reason we can do the show full-time. Without the support of our patrons, Anthony would probably be face down at the bottom of a drain pool dead, and who knows what I'd be doing. I don't even know, man. There'd be no will to live. Another great way to support the show is to leave those 5-star ratings on Spotify and Apple. These help us get seen by new people. It helps you chart your show better, as well as discovery feed. You know, people see your show. It's a lot more reputable when you have quite a few ratings and reviews. At 5,000 Apple ratings, I will get a movie tattoo of Anthony's choice. Hopefully it's not too embarrassing. And I'll read one of those out in just a minute because I love to read the written runs out on Apple Podcasts, which anyone can leave a written review or just a rating there. Feel free to knock yourself out over there. And then another great way to support the show is to share us with your family and friends. Sharing and word of mouth of a podcast is the absolute best way for it to grow organically. So tell everyone about Raiders of Lost podcast, as well as this great episode of deconstructing what the fuck is going on with Blade.
This episode, of course, is sponsored by our friends at movieposters.com, the #1 place to get your posters online today. Be sure to use our promo code Raiders10 at movieposters.com to get 10% off your order right now. They have a huge selection of pretty much every movie and TV show imaginable in their poster library. If you're a fan of any of the Blade movies, they have all of the Blade posters, as well as all the other Marvel movie posters and TV shows. They have a huge selection of pretty much every film and TV show in their library, as well as all sorts of sizes and even backlighting for your poster needs. Be sure, if you need a poster, to go to movieposters.com and use our promo code Raiders10 right now to get 10% off your order immediately. So, James, you're telling me that I just realized that they announced this film before we started the podcast.
They did.
Unbelievable.
They announced Blade before we started Raiders of Lost podcast. They announced Blade before COVID. They announced Blade before Endgame.
Oh my god! I just didn't realize it was that long.
Anthony, we were in our 20s when they announced Blade.
Shut up! Stop it.
We were in our 20s.
Oh,
that's
fuck.
how long ago this movie was
Oh my
announced.
god!
Well, that's how long ago Mahershala signed. I was 28 years old, and now I'm 43.
We're gonna be Mahershala's age when it comes out.
Oh my god!
All right, let's
get into our intermission, bro.
Jinx,
you owe me coke. All right, start with the movie quote competition. Are you ready?
Ready?
Get yourself a Glock and get rid of that nickel-plated sissy pistol. Put that back in your suit and don't take it out unless I tell you to.
What the fuck? Say it again.
Get yourself a Glock and get rid of that nickel-plated sissy pistol. Put that back in your suit and don't take it out unless I tell you to.
I have no idea.
That is Sam Gerard in U.S. Marshals.
Oh, nice. Good one.
Good movie.
I almost did some U.S. Marshal ones today.
But you didn't.
All right, hold on.
But
My
you
camera
didn't.
cut. One moment.
Of course Anthony's camera cut out, because his camera always cuts out when we're recording. I can't wait till you're back in studio so we don't have to put up with this bullshit anymore, Anthony.
Well, what's funny is we used to do it with these cameras all the time.
Yeah.
They used to cut out every 25 minutes. I took out a small camera for being in Europe, and they do not last long. All right, here's my quote. We're police officers. We're not trained to handle this kind of violence.
It's funny. What movie is that? Is this The Other Guys?
Nope.
Say it one more time.
We're police officers. We're not trained to handle this kind of violence.
Terminator 2?
Nope.
I don't know.
Demolition Man. The cops aren't like, they don't have guns or anything in the future.
Yeah.
Because there's like no crime. It's Rob
That's
Schneider.
funny. My pop quiz question's a Demolition Man question.
What is it?
What is Wesley Snipes' character name in Demolition Man?
Oh, fuck. I have no idea.
Simon Phoenix.
Simon Phoenix. Oh, my God.
That was such a banger when we were growing up.
It's
Such a
awesome.
banger. Every restaurant is Taco Bell. He
He
doesn't know how to use the 3
He doesn't
seashells.
know how to use the 3 seashells. I actually did do a U.S. Marshals quiz question, but I'm going to do a new one because you're definitely going to get it since you looked into U.S. Marshals today.
Well, I only looked up a quote. I didn't like deep
but
dive.
you
the
know
Wikipedia.
about it, though. You know about it now.
I've heard of the movie
You've
U.S.
heard of
Marshals
it.
before.
Yeah. All right. Here, what year did White Men Can't Jump come out?
White Men Can't Jump came out. Bro, I picked the same. I picked the same one for my movie release year, 1992.
Oh my God.
All right, quick, find a new movie year to drop.
Commando.
19. Oh, is this 80s or not? This has got to be a 90s movie. 1991.
1985.
1985. Holy
pretty
crap!
young in
That's
it.
an old. Yeah, he is pretty young. Yeah, that's a good way to go by. Like, how big and jacked is Arnold in that? He's pretty big and jacked in it. Pretty big and jacked. All right. What year did The Curious Case of Benjamin Button come out?
2009. 2008.
2000. Is that your final answer?
Yes.
Are you sure? Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Are you sure about that?
2008.
2008 is correct.
Same year Dark Knight came out. I judge it based on that. I know it got nominated over that.
That's such a Michael Scott method of figuring things out.
I do a lot of things based on the year that Dark Knight came out.
It's the year we became men.
All right, I have a new quiz question that's not U.S. Marshals.
Okay.
Commando shot in the Sherman Oaks Galleria Mall.
Oh my God, it did.
Yeah.
It did, yeah.
This mall was also used for what film?
Has there only been 2 movies shot there?
What other Arnold Schwarzenegger film?
T2, Terminator 2.
Correct.
Fuck yeah, baby.
I think it was in Kindergarten Cop too. I gotta look into this. I swear to God, it was in Kindergarten Cop.
I love that scene in Terminator because it's when the T-1000's a cop and he's looking for John.
Yeah.
And he shows John's buddy that sign and he's like, oh, I've never seen him before. Or the photo of John.
Yeah.
And there's so many memes like, this guy saved humanity before John Connor. This kid
At the arcade?
What was it? Not trusting cops saved humanity from D-Day.
It's true. It's true.
Oh my God. I love the look. I'm like the flannels with the cut off sleeves. What a look, man. The 90s, bro.
grunge.
I wish well, we did grow up in the 90s, but we were just little kids.
Now teens all look like Euphoria in movies.
No, in movies, yeah, not in real life.
No,
In
not in
real
real
they're
life.
just wearing-
In
in real
real-
life, they're wearing sweatpants and
hoodies.
like pajama t-shirts. Every time I leave the house and I see a kid, they're like in pajamas, always in pajamas.
Yeah, we live near a high school. They all wear pajama pants, sandals, and hoodies. They all do.
That's how they dress. They're just wearing pajamas to school every day. I occasionally did once in a while, but I still put on jeans regularly.
Well, we went to Catholic school. We had a uniform.
True.
But in elementary school, yeah, we wore jeans plenty of times.
And a lot of Mickey Mouse shirts. Well, elementary schools, Tasmanian Devil shirt, like all over the place in elementary school.
Long basketball shorts down to the shins.
Museum of Science. T-shirt
with a triceratops on it.
Yeah. Wouldn't say I was the most stylish elementary schooler.
A Teddy Bruschi
Some of these elementary
Patriots
school
jersey.
kids in LA, you see them with their parents to drop them off. They're just like swagged out, dude. Swagged out. Looking sharp.
Oh my god.
Okay. All right. Do we have any haters or unsubscribes this week, Anthony?
Oh, we sure do. We sure do, man.
We sure do, brother.
Sure do, brother. Let me get them for you, brother. All right, first up, we got Jen Mania.
Hey, Jen.
Are you going to post this movie news on Patreon, Spotify, or are you going to make me suffer through ads? Unsubscribed.
Crap, sorry. I forgot.
You always forget.
I do always forget. Sorry, Jen.
Jeffrin Fro on our Nick Cage episode wrote, "How is Wild at Heart not even mentioned? Are you Nick Cage fans? This is the most Nick Cage performance ever, the most quotable movie ever, and David Lynch's best film. This is a snakeskin jacket, and for me, it's a symbol of my individuality and my belief in personal freedom." Unsubscribed. Sorry, bud.
Sorry, pal. That's Anthony's fault.
That was my fault. You were there too.
No.
You
I just
were
played you
involved.
first.
You were 100% there. That's it for our unsubscribes.
All right. Let me get into a great 5-star review from Saul Arguello.
What's up, Saul?
Big fan. 5 stars. Simple review. Absolutely great podcast. Awesome movie knowledge from these boys and very entertaining segments. Would recommend to anyone who loves movies. Saul,
Thank you, pal.
thank you so much for that review. Means the world to us. So much. Thank you for tuning in and for being a fan of the show. And again, anyone can leave those 5-star written reviews, which I love to read out. Anthony, what's your streaming recommendation?
Alfred Hitchcock's Rope is on Amazon Prime. Watch it ASAP.
All right, my streaming recommendation's an indie horror film. And I think I remember hearing about this when it came out a few years ago. But it didn't get a ton of views. It's not got that many ratings on IMDb or Letterboxd or anything like that. And it's not a perfect movie. But I watched this movie called New Life, which came out last year, directed by John Rossman. And it's a bit of a slow starter. But once you find out really what's going on, it's really, really epic. I don't want to spoil what it is, but I'll quickly describe that. There's sort of there's this woman. She's a fixer, and she's trying to hunt down this other younger woman who's been infected with the disease, but she doesn't realize it yet. And she's trying to track her down and to prevent a global outbreak, basically. When you find out what the disease is, I screamed in joy when they revealed what it was. I was so excited. So it's a solid movie. It's not perfect, but for a low-budget indie horror movie, it's worth definitely checking out, especially if you like that kind of stuff. But I really enjoyed it. The gore is pretty cool, too. But when I found out what it was, I was ecstatic.
Okay, I gotta add this to my watch list. I've never even heard of it.
Yeah. Came out last year. New Life.
New Life. Sounds cool.
All right. Let's get back into our episode on Blade, which has no life, basically, because they're constantly trying to give this movie a new life.
I have some fun facts about this production before, and I also want to do a timeline of all of the events so far that have happened in the history.
Oh,
of the
I would love to
production.
hear a timeline. I would love to hear a timeline.
So first up, hear this. Wesley Snipes wanted to reprise his role as Blade when the rights went back to Marvel, but they did not want him.
I feel like it was the right decision to go with someone newer and younger because they're separating themselves from the
just
past.
3 years younger. Just kidding.
No, Wesley's only 11 years older than Mahershala.
Mahershala Ali turned down the role of Commissioner Gordon in The Batman to do this instead.
Oh, man. I wonder if he regrets that.
No, wait. The lead of Blade?
Yeah, but is their Blade movie ever going to get made?
It's gonna happen. Idris Elba and John Boyega showed interest before the part went to Mahershala Ali. And in the comics, Blade is English.
I could see John Boyega doing it. It'd be a very young version of it.
Yeah,
because Boyega's got to be like 33 or something like that. Idris, I think, could do it really well, but I always saw him more as a Bond kind of hero. I don't know if... Well, I think he could probably do it. He's just cool as fuck.
He could do anything, yeah.
But I think Mahershala sort of has more of that edge, though.
Mm-hmm. I think
You
I
know.
think he's more talented than out of the three of them by far. Obviously, with 2 Oscars.
Yeah, I mean, Mahershala's a 2-time Oscar winner. Not that Boyega and Elba aren't insanely talented because
Yeah.
they are.
Yeah.
I mean, Idris is one of the coolest actors out there too. So, but I think Mahershala was the perfect casting. Honestly, I couldn't have thought of anyone better.
So this is going to be the second R-rated MCU film after Deadpool 3 comes out. So these are going to be the first 2 that come out as rated R.
If it comes out, I mean,
It'll come out. It'll come out.
Let's keep saying if.
This is crazy. This is Blade will be the 37th film in the MCU.
That's absolutely wild.
37.
37? Is that counting like the Spider-Man and
Yeah.
previous?
I mean, I don't think the
Blade
Sony
films?
productions. Well, maybe.
That has to, because the MCU, there hasn't been over 30 movies, has there?
I don't know. Maybe. Maybe they're counting the Sony Spider-Man films.
They have to be. They
Yeah.
have to be, because
Oh, dude.
that's a lot of movies.
By the way, have you seen the new trailer for Twisters?
Is there a new one?
Yeah, it's playing in theaters, and it was fucking awesome. Just
I
saying.
saw the. Yeah, I saw the trailer in theaters 2 weeks ago, and it was just blew my hair back.
With
even
the
though I
fire
watched it
tornado.
online a few times. Yeah, dude, that movie
Oh my
looks
God.
sick.
Oh my god, it looks awesome.
It's crazy. They can write a movie about twisters, no problem. But God forbid Marvel try to write a Blade script, and all hell breaks loose, and they can't fucking do it. It's crazy. They wrote a great looking movie about tornadoes. Fucking A, man.
Oh my god. Oh my god. All right, let's get into this timeline. This is
Timeline it up.
the troubled history of Marvel's Blade. So, in 2011, Marvel Studios regained the rights to Blade, the property. So they waited a while.
That's a long
before
time
you-
ago.
So they focused on I think they were so focused on Avengers, they didn't even think about doing Blade for a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. They had so much going
Yeah.
on. They were cooking. They were absolutely cooking back then and getting everything ready. Then they had Guardians coming out soon. So I understand that that Blade didn't probably fit the trajectory of where those phases were going.
Yeah. But I mean, he could have been awesome. I'm just saying. And then
Like a solo, that's what I'm saying. Just make a fucking Blade movie,
Yeah.
not connected to anything.
that's honestly what we
Fuck
want.
everyone else. Fuck everyone else. I don't care if Blade's in the Avengers. I would prefer he not be in the Avengers. Just fucking make a Blade movie, guys.
And then in October of 2016, Kevin Feige expressed interest in introducing Blade into the MCU, saying he's a really fun character. We think this movie's going into a different side of the universe and would have potential to have him pop up but between movies. The Netflix shows, the ABC shows, there are so many opportunities for the character to pop up. Thank God they didn't do that, because they were talking about doing it in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. No way. Then in 2017, Feige said he's interested in putting Blade into the MCU. We think it would be cool one day. Then in 2019 at San Diego Comic-Con, Feige finally announced Blade was in development and that Mahershala Ali would portray the character. This is when they took the photos. And
Okay, we were 1 year off then.
Yeah, Mahershala Ali took photos with the entire cast of Thunderbolts and a bunch of other like Black Widow, like everyone that was there for Marvel at Comic-Con that day. Then in 2020, Mahershala Ali revealed that he first approached Marvel about playing Blade. They were considering rebooting the character into a television series rather than a film, and it took a couple of years for them to come to a conclusion and to cast him in the film. So he's the one who fought for the role and pursued the role, which is interesting. Because he's a perfect choice.
And he knows it, too.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Then in 2020, that same month, Marvel announced they were searching for writers. And then in February 2021, they hired Stacey Osiu Kofor to pen the film's script. However, in March 2021, it was reported that the film would begin production in September and was expected to wrap in December 2021, wrapping production. In July 2021, in May 2021, the film's production was pushed back from starting in July so that Marvel could spend more time working on the script. And then in 2021, that same year, in July 2021, Bassam Tariq was the first person hired to be the director of the film. And then he confirmed it in September 21st. In November 19th, 2021, it was confirmed that Delroy Lindo had been cast in an undisclosed role. And then in January 2022, it was announced that the film would begin production in August that year and wrap by December. And then in 2022 of February, Aaron Pierre joined the cast in an undisclosed role. I'm not sure if he's attached to it anymore. In April 2022, the working title of the film was Perfect Imprints. What the fuck is that?
That is terrible.
Perfect Imprints.
Oh my God.
What?
Just call it Blade.
What?
It's just Blade.
How did that even get passed through management?
It's Blade, and then it's Blade 2, and it's Blade 3. That's it.
Perfect Imprints for a Blade movie?
That's terrible. I think that's a problem when you maybe the management structure in a lot of these studios in those 2020, 2021, 2022, they were afraid to tell people no.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, I think they were just afraid to say, oh, no, that's probably not great. Oh, yeah, let's go with Perfect Imprints. It sounds like a sci-fi rom-com. That sounds terrible.
It sounds like a dentist film.
That is horrible. Perfect Imprints?
Oh, my God.
It's just Blade. It's just call it Blade.
And then...
I'm getting more upset about this as this episode goes on, man. I didn't even know about that.
Oh, my God, that's
terrible.
awful. Perfect Imprints. Why would you call Blade Perfect Imprints? That's insane. And then June 2022, that same year, it was reported that Damian Garcia, the cinematographer, had been tapped as the official DP for the film. And then that same month, it was announced they would start production in Atlanta and New Orleans. Then a couple more castings. Milan Ray joined the cast in an undisclosed role. And then in July 2022, they pushed production back to start in October. And then Kevin Feige announced the film would be released November 3rd, 2023. And then in 2022, they announced production. October 5th would be the start date, and they would wrap in January 2023. But then, in September 27th, 2022, director Bassam Tariq stepped down as the director of the film due to shifts in the film's production schedule. Sure about that. And then he would remain part of the film as executive. Sure about that. As executive producer. And then Bo DeMeo joined the film as a writer and had written the most recent version of the script at that time. And then in October 2022, production shut down temporarily while they searched for the new director. That same day it was announced that the film would be pushed back all the way to September 2024. They finally replaced the director in 2022, November 21st, with Jan Demange, who's still attached to the film, and that Michael Starbury would write that film's new script. So the previous writer, Stacey Osei-Kaffour, was fired, and then this new writer was put on, Michael Starbury. Then it was announced that Damian Garcia, the cinematographer, stepped down, and Matthew Libatique, the very well-known cinematographer, joined as the DP. Then it was announced in 2023 of March. Production would begin in May, but then that was pushed back. And then in April 2023, Mia Goth joined the cast as an undisclosed role. In May 2023, Nick Pizzolatto joined the film as the new writer, and he would rewrite the film script. Then the next month in May, the production shut down due to the writer's strike. And then in June 2023, it pushed back the release date from September 2024 to February 2025. Then in November 2023, Michael Green, the writer of Logan, was tapped to write the new script after Marvel let go of Nick Pizzolatto. And like I said, I think that had to be maybe he had a certain time frame of a contract, and then the writer's strike just prevented him from working on it. And then in November, a week later, in 2023, Jan Demange revealed that the film would be rated R. A week later, it was announced that the release date went from February 2025 to November 7th, 2025, where it still stands. And then Aaron Pierre, the actor who was previously cast, is no longer attached to Blade. So at the moment, all that we have confirmed is the new director and writer and the release date of November 7th, 2025. And at the moment, that's the last piece of news.
And you know that's going to get pushed back. You know it's going to get pushed back to 2026, at least.
I absolutely think so.
Name me a Marvel project in the last 5 years that hasn't had a delay or been pushed back for a release date. And of course, you know, COVID, the writer's strike, that all has to do with it. But when it comes to COVID and lockdowns, you could have still developed the project. You could have still been writing. You could have been still doing all your pre-production work. It's lockdown. But I mean, the Batman did it. The Batman pulled off production in 2021.
Yeah.
And I think that in the writer's strike, sure. But at the end of the day, even if there wasn't a writer's strike, it sounds like the movie wouldn't have worked out anyways. And they wouldn't have gone into production anyways, because now they got rid of Nick Pizzolatto and are going in a completely new direction. So I'll give credit to Marvel execs and the heads of the movie department to know that the movie's not strong enough to go into pre-production now, hence why they're constantly pulling the plug, which means they recognize how important of a character Blade is going forward, not just for the MCU, but for audiences. So I get that. I respect that. But also, why are they getting to the point where they have to pull plugs on projects that aren't going to be good enough for the character? Why are they giving funding to creatives that maybe aren't right for the roles? Why are they putting so much work into developing stories and scripts and pre-production on movies that they are just going to pull the plug on? And for me, it shows that, it's a studio that has so much money, and maybe now things have been changing because they've had some poor box office performance at Disney the last couple of years. Maybe things are changing where they're more focused on let's develop the best quality we can versus like, oh, we have a ton of money. If it's not the biggest hit, it's no big deal. Let's just get it out. Let's just make the movie as quickly as possible. I feel like now the pressure's on to make great movies again in the MCU versus just making movies that are fine. They're funny. They're enjoyable for the most part. I think that's a good way to describe the majority of the MCU the last 2 or 3 years. Multiverse of Madness is fun. It's a good time. Thor: Love and Thunder is fun. It was a good time. But I think they got to get back into making great movies again. And I think that they just lost that because they have such a wealth. They don't have to rely so much on the box office because they have so much money that it doesn't destroy their studio. They'll still make money. So I feel like it's a combination of a lot of things where they just lost their edge. The MCU lost their edge. And I feel like management structures change so often. And post-Avengers, Endgame, Infinity War put them in a lull. Maybe not overconfidence that they could sort of do anything and audiences would eat it up. But I think they lost the edge, and it seems like they're losing the edge with Blade. And I really hope they can figure it out because this is such a beloved character. And, man, growing up with those Blade movies, those are some of the best movies. Those are some of our favorite watches as kids. And it's a character that they have to get right, and they know they have to get it right. But why it gets to the stage consistently where the project is about to go into production, they pull the plug, is beyond me, man. I don't understand. I don't understand it. And I'm trying to understand it.
So the Batman's a great example to bounce off of, and also the upcoming Zelda film. So what happens is what those studios have done properly is they hired experienced filmmakers who are fans of the property and fans of the character. So Wes Ball, huge Zelda fan. And he's doing everything he can, like he stated in interviews, to make as accurate and authentic a adaptation of the characters and stories as he possibly can for fans of the games. What happened a lot in post 2020 was a lot of studios were just hiring people, and they probably weren't suited for IPs. They weren't even fans of IPs, and they were basically doing their versions of IPs, and they weren't thinking about fans. They weren't thinking about the property. They were thinking about, oh, we got this up and coming person. This is a good hire for us. This looks good for us. And that's been a big problem post 2020 that a lot of studios made bad decisions about. And so you take an example, Warner Brothers, they could have anyone make a Batman adaptation. It's because it's everybody, so many filmmakers want to do it. And they went with Matt Reeves, who proved himself with a shit ton of great movies so far in his career. And on top of that, being a massive fan and passionate fan, wanting to make as great of an adaptation of the characters in those stories as he possibly can. That's what you want in the filmmakers you hire for big IPs like this. You don't want to hire someone who's going to do a new iteration and a new interpretation of a character that we love and make a completely different thing. You want to hire filmmakers who are just as passionate about the project and about the character and IP as the fans are. So, for example, Mahershala Ali being passionate, pursuing it himself, that's an example of hiring the right actor. But I think they kept hiring the wrong filmmakers and writers who wanted to do their own thing, thinking about what do I want to do instead of what should I do for the audiences? And so maybe
I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's that great cameo in Barry season 4 of Coda director Sean Hayter. You know, she directed a Best Picture winner, and Barry season 4 has a great cameo of her where the character Barry is walking through a studio lot, and he walks into one of the sound stages and meets Sean Hayter. And it's a great joke where she's like, yeah, I just made this indie film, and now I'm making this massive superhero movie with all blue screens and green screens. I'm having the time of my life. It's sort of a great joke and a jab at Marvel for sure, because, you know, you're constantly hiring indie directors who go from working on $2-3 million budgets to working on $200 million productions, which is quite the leap. I'm not saying that it's not doable, but I think someone like Ryan Coogler is the perfect example of how to hire, where you have Ryan Coogler, who makes an independent film, Fruitvale Station, terrific movie, critically acclaimed. And then what's he do? He doesn't go huge, but he makes a Creed movie. Creed movie was like 40, 50 mil, bigger production, bigger step up, but it's not the massive spectacle production of a superhero film.
And it's a new character.
Yeah, and it's grounded, and it's not the whole thing's on blue screens, green screens, visual effects. There's a lot of visual effects in it for sure, especially in the audience, but the majority of that movie, it's grounded. You know, it's still a really well-made drama. And then what's he do? Then he goes to Black Panther and knocks it out of the park and makes one of the better MCU films of the century with Black Panther. And then Wakanda Forever. So that's, I think, the best trajectory for hiring directors for these projects is not just taking an indie director that just made a $2 million movie that was an Oscar contender and then giving them a $250 million budget and saying, all right, go for it. You can do this. I'm not saying that they can't, but it's not easy. And, of course, Marvel's this factory machine of so many parts to help with the production when it comes to pre-production, previs, production, and filming. But still, it's a tall order for someone that has minimal experience on that size production, where Wes Ball, like you said, great selection for Zelda because he has experience on doing the Maze Runner franchise. He has experience now doing the Planet of the Apes movie, so he's a perfect choice for making a massive, epic visual effects juggernaut of a film, blockbuster like a Zelda movie, versus just plucking an indie director who just did a $4 million movie and saying, all right, make a Zelda movie. And that's a great point. So I think going back to hiring directors with experience on massive scales is probably the right route to do. And I think they're in a step in the right direction with their new director, Jan Demange, who's made several movies now and a little bigger and bigger in scale each time. But at the end of the day, I think that's one of the biggest weaknesses of the MCU lately is just maybe not getting the right people fit for the right jobs in the creative fields of their movies.
Yeah, absolutely. And so with this new writer, he wrote Logan, one of the most beloved comic book movies of all time. That's a step in a great direction right there. And so this guy wrote a film that everybody loves and a film that really showed audiences a new interpretation of a comic book character that we've seen 10 times. So I think that's exciting to have this guy on board as a screenwriter rather than hiring someone who maybe wrote like an indie film from a film festival. You want to give it to someone who knows what they're doing at this kind of world and this kind of landscape and this kind of level of filmmaking. And that's, I think, probably the best decision they've made outside of hiring Mahershala Ali, probably.
True. And also, not that Nick Pizzolatto isn't a great writer, because he is, obviously. True Detective Season 1 is one of the best seasons of television ever made, if not the best. But also, with our new writer having written Logan, he's written a comic book movie before. So having someone who has experience writing comic book characters for cinema, for audiences, knowing what audiences want in that particular genre, I think is insanely important for this movie going forward. Insanely important.
100%.
But man, I mean, it's just a shame because vampires are so cool. Blade is beyond cool. It's a character. I just need Blade in my life. And you know what? I think I'll just watch Blade tonight. We should just do an episode on Blade.
Yeah, let's do it.
In a couple months. Well, in a couple months, let's just do an episode on Blade because this is a movie that should have been made already. Unfortunately, it hasn't. And I'm glad to hear that. It seems like Mahershala still wants to do it, obviously, even though I'm sure he's pretty frustrated. 5 years later, still nothing going on. almost going into production multiple times. But he's just awesome for staying on board and being a good sport about it. And obviously, since he's so passionate about it, wanting to do it and pursuing Marvel and courting them to make the movie,
Yeah.
I feel like they should just let Mahershala Ali write a story. Let him do the story, then get a screenwriter to write the whole thing out. Because just let him do what he wants. That's what I would do.
Yeah, he's a smart guy.
I would let Mahershala have a lot of input on the story. That's what I would do.
So would I. Yeah. But
It's a damn shame.
With this new writer, I'm looking forward to it. They have a great crew so far, and obviously an excellent cast at the moment with these 3 leads. So it is stepping in the right direction right now, and hopefully they can get things under control. And really, they said they want to shoot later this year, so we'll see if they can get production up and going.
Just make it about Blade.
That's it. It's easy.
It's not that hard. Guys at Marvel, if you're listening, just make it about Blade.
That's all.
We don't need anyone else. We don't need his daughter. We don't need fucking Captain America to come in there. We don't need Yelena to come in there. We don't need anyone else in the movie.
Don't need Kit Harington.
Blade.
Yeah.
We need Blade. Yeah, we don't need Kit Harington. We just need Blade killing vampires. That's all we need.
That's it.
That's it. Come on. It's what we want. That's what we want. Anyways.
Let's call it from there. That's all we know so far, and we will be obviously getting plenty of updates over the next year about this.
All right, that wraps our episode on Blade. What the fuck is happening? I don't know if that'll be the title of the podcast episode, but it should be. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Raiders of the Lost Podcast. Thank you for leaving those 5-star ratings and reviews, and become a patron today at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast, and get your posters today at movieposters.com with our coupon code Raiders10 for 10% off. Take care, everybody.
See you next time.
This episode was executive produced by our chosen one patrons, Cody Moen, Andrew Hagan, Becca Keene, Benjamin Cook, Calvin Murphy-Griggs, Nicholas Martin, Darian Singleton, Tyler McFly, Andrew Hagan. Our chosen one patrons are our biggest supporters. Thank you so much. Raiders of the Lost Podcast is a mirror image production. Sound mixing done by Jacob Kossler. Opening music by Chase Jackson. Thank you for watching Raiders of the Lost Podcast. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button as well, notifications for sure. Listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, everywhere you can listen to podcasts, and be sure to check out this other content we have on our YouTube channel.